Who is the sleeper Lions pass catcher to go after if the sun god rests on the Sabbath this week? What Bears running back is the player to get on your roster right now after last night's game? And is it time to get CJ Stroud in your starting lineup in the FFPC Main Event? Plus, FFPC Main Event league champion Trevor Holt stops by to talk about how his team with Ferrell Elliott has navigated itself into the top 40 in this year's FFPC Main Event, how they've made it through the first few weeks without their top performers playing like top performers, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all the Bulkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. I am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, from the Better Sports Network's High Stakes Fantasy Football Show, the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, and of course the FFPC. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott, who plays a bigger role in tonight's show than you might be accustomed to. Coming up on tonight's program, we're going to break down Michael Williams' 2023 breakout last weekend. Which Falcons tight end, can't believe we're having this conversation, which Falcons tight end you need to start this week, and much more. As a reminder, if you are looking for more action with the FFPC, rest assured we have plenty of stuff available for you right now. When you go to myffpc.com, that's myffpc.com to play the FFPC Weekly Challenge. There is no draft in this. There is no salary cap in this. You just choose 10 players if you want to play without kickers and defenses. You just choose 12 players if you want to play with kickers and defenses. Just choose them by Sunday's 1 p.m. kickoff. Watch them ride throughout the rest of the weekend, and you can get fantasy glory. Again, similar to the FFPC World Famous Playoff Challenge, only one player per team. So if you want to get Patrick Mahomes on your team, you can't have Travis Kelce. If you want to grab Jalen Hurts, you can't have A.J. Brown. Only one player per team. $35 is the entry fee. You can also play for a $200 entry fee and win up to $2,500. That's at myffpc.com. 10-team contest, 30-team contest, 100-team contest, all available at myffpc.com. That's myffpc.com. Get there right now. Register while you watch the show tonight. It's the perfect two-screen experience. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the FFPC channel, youtube.com/FFPC Fantasy. Comment on the FFPC YouTube videos that we have there. Share them with your friends and enemies and get notified anytime we go live on the FFPC YouTube channel. The next time will be coming up on Tuesday. Let you know more on that as we move on through the broadcast tonight. Let's welcome in the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, the one, the only, Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, welcome in. Happy Friday to you. Happy first Friday of October for us doing this show.
Okay, Valky, good. It's good to see you. How are you?
I'm actually in a really good mood. I had a really good local afternoon show today. I'm still riding that high and trying to transform into radio greatness tonight. The thing is, I really don't have to because you always carry me each and every Friday night, which I appreciate.
You know, Balky, you're a true broadcast professional. You get better every day. It's just amazing. Your ceiling is yet to be seen, and it already towers above all others.
You are way too kind, Ferrell. We have a lot of stuff to get to. And by the way,
week.
I got a show rundown prepared tonight, but it's very on brand for us to veer off that right away tonight, which is what we're going to do.
Okay.
Marcos Valdez is actually watching us on the book right now, the Facebook. He's got a half-point PPR question. He wants to know, should he be starting Brandon Ayuk over Puka Nacua? Now, The way I fall in on this, and I think we got a couple of we'll hit on Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Tutu Atwell tonight. But to lead things off, I am of the opinion that I am a little bit nervous about Cooper Kupp his first week. This is a guy that had a hamstring injury. And that's an injury that we've seen a lot of players come back from in a couple of weeks. Dude missed basically the entire preseason, then had to leave the state of California to go to Minnesota to see a specialist, again, for a hamstring injury.
Mm-hmm.
This is red flags. Like, you shouldn't have to – a hamstring injury not only should not take this long, it should not require a second opinion. I'm of the opinion that there probably is something else going on here. I'm not sure he's up to snuff for week one. Jim Cole and I have a few teams that we have split in the KFFSC main event this year. Right now, we're of the opinion we're going to start Cooper Kupp the first time out. I think that if you have the means to bench Cooper Kupp in his first week back, you should do it, because I'm a little bit nervous about this week. That said, because I'm nervous about Kupp, I'm still firing up Nacua everywhere. So to me, while Ayuk is a good start this week against the Cowboys, I'd rather play Nacua over Ayuk. Am I wrong? Do you disagree? How do you feel about this?
You figured that out. Now, Mr. Valdez is in a half-point PPR, which makes me, and naturally he'll get a 6-point touchdown. And Ayuk is a touchdown monster, and I believe they will have to have him. So I would probably put my efforts behind Ayuk here. But it's a tough one to call, and he might have another receiver that he should sit. So that would be my advice, to look again at his roster and find another guy to sit. Puka is going to be a continued threat in this offense. He does a great job of getting open. The routes that he's running are not going to be taken away by Kupp. They're going to be what this offense is going to look like on both sides of the field. Could even possibly free up Higbee in the middle, who's got a good set of hands and a great relationship with the quarterback. All things are pointing positive in Los Angeles Rams. And the fact that the player's back, this is the holistic approach. Now, Balky, when any NFL player is having issues, he goes to the top. And perhaps hamstrings are settled in Minnesota. It gets cold there quick. People are pulling hamstrings. I don't know, but maybe, that's where he goes. So your detective skills are Hercule Poirot worthy here.
Ooh.
However, I think you might be working a bit too hard.
If you had Ferrell Elliott having the first Agatha Christie reference tonight, you hit that on your bingo card. Maybe I am. And listen, this is not the first time I freaked out over something I probably shouldn't be freaking out about, but you could be right. So Ferrell says Ayuk. I still say Nacua. Go with God on this. Rubio chiming in on the YouTube chat saying, because of bye weeks, a lot of us can't afford to sit Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp. And you might be in that circumstance. And I'll reinforce this again. I'm only saying sit Cooper Kupp if you have the means. If you don't have the means, then play him. Jim Cole and I, in our leagues, we may not have the means. We may have
when Cooper Kupp puts up 30 this weekend, you're going to be saying, what was I thinking about?
Let's go to our resident Ivy League professor kicking off another question tonight. Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, safe flexes as of now. As of now, they are not safe flexes in my mind, Ferrell. I think Barkley is going to give it a go this week. I don't know how effective he's going to be. And quite frankly, there's a non-zero chance that he still doesn't go. He is at Miami this week. So I think you got to, utilize caution there. You got to have some plans in case Barkley doesn't go. Secondly, Jonathan Taylor. Oh my God. I don't know what to do with him here, because this is a player that says he's 100% healthy. We know behind the scenes probably why he was placed on IR to start the season, or pup list or whatever it was, that he's off now. He's been practicing in full this week. It's not like he's got a bunch of world beaters in front of him. However, the matchup is it's about as bad as it comes. Even if Jonathan Taylor is active, I can't say he's a safe flex. I understand if you use him as a flex, I might use him as a flex. But again, with these two players here, I would try to look elsewhere if at all possible, Ferrell.
This question comes from a man who does not embrace safety. The guy would make you think he wears a belt and suspenders at the same time. Hudson Curry does not. Hudson Curry is a risk taker. Why is this even a question? However, I have to think that Jonathan Taylor has a lot to prove when he gets on that field. I would not want to be the first linebacker if he gets to the second level. I would hate to be the linebacker and have to take him down. And as the gentleman previously said, and I apologize for that, as the gentleman previously said, we're in a situation where perhaps you can't afford to sit certain players. So, don't drive yourself crazy about this. Just, play your best players. If you've got a player that you think is a solid 12 to 15 at running back, play him and sit on the sidelines. If you've got a Jerick McKinnon kind of situation, you run these players out there, and that's easy to figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely it is, and we'll know more obviously, but about 11:30 Eastern time on Sunday. As a reminder, and I'll give a shout out at the end of the show to anybody who is submitting lineup Saturday night or early Sunday morning, because we do have an early Sunday morning 9:30 a.m. kickoff between the Bills and the Jaguars. So make sure that you are getting those players in before you can't. Obviously.
Hurry up and ask another question, because I just gave a Captain Obvious answer. Hurts my feelings.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do this.
Let's move on to something. A bitter taste of nonsense out of my mouth.
Bitter taste of nonsense. Great fantasy football team name. Amon-Ra St. Brown is doubtful officially for the Carolina Panthers game this weekend. St. Brown has been pretty tough. He's gutted out a lot of injuries since he has entered the NFL. But the fact that he's listed as doubtful on Friday, it makes me think that you have to make other plans. There almost is no alternative now. Josh Reynolds is listed as questionable. Jameson Williams listed as questionable as well. Khalif Raymond, really the only fully healthy guy in the Detroit wide receiver room. Sam Laporta should see a ton of targets. I mean, to me, he's a slam dunk start this week. The question here is, Ferrell, if St. Brown can't go, would you look at Williams, Khalif Raymond, or Josh Reynolds as viable flex plays this week, or are we digging too deep to go with any of those wide receivers for Detroit?
I don't think you are, but you'd have to predict the actions of the coach, and he might play all three of them. It's a situation. What's going on with Gibbs here in this situation?
Well, that's another. I'm glad you bring that up, because Gibbs is another guy that is listed as questionable in this game as well. So it could be like, honest to God, it would not surprise me at all that this is the David Montgomery and Craig Reynolds show on Sunday for the Lions against the Carolina Panthers, who I believe are the only 0-4 team in the league. Gibbs actually was added to the injury report today, was not appearing on it either on Wednesday or Thursday. And you always hate these midweek downgrades. And this is a massive midweek downgrade. David Montgomery is averaging 23 carries a game. And that's, by the way, already leaving a game early this year. They have been pounding him. It's going to be another David Montgomery game for sure. So I love Montgomery this week. I love Sam Laporta this week. Can't really get behind any other Lions. I take that back. Jared Goff, I think, could still be okay this week in a spot start if you're missing Herbert or Watson or whoever. But Laporta and Montgomery are the guys here. I can't believe in any of the other skill position guys not named Goff.
Yeah, and pick your Detroit player that you like, because there's a lot of likable qualities. Reynolds perhaps is my favorite. Raymond, if he can get loose from a secondary that seems to have difficulty with the slot receiver or with the crossing patterns in the middle of the field. This defense has regressed a little bit. Naturally, their record suggests that, and the fact that they've had a tough schedule and had to replace their quarterback. They've been competitive. Carolina is great for fantasy football. They're giving, so it should be a good game for all fantasy players. And so I can believe that, if you drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown and you have these other guys, you either paid for them on the waiver wire or you chose to handcuff, your top second round pick, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, follow through with your strategy and good luck.
Good luck indeed. We're going to wish good luck to our buddy Chris Lude, who is hanging out with us on YouTube right now, taking in the action. And he says, good evening, guys. Pittsburgh's offensive line is terrible and playing in probably a low-scoring game. This is against the Ravens. Am I stupid for thinking of starting Rashee Rice over George Pickens full PPR? Thank you for the chime in, Chris Lude. Listen, if you're watching this show, you are clearly not stupid. So we're not even gonna entertain that at all. 100%. That said, Ferrell, I don't know how I've not done this over the years. I've never named any of my fantasy team names a weak man, because that is actually what I am. I am not strong enough. I cannot find it in my system to somehow find a way to start Rashee Rice for the Chiefs in the Vikings game, by the way, this week, with a total at 52.5, I think was last check, still at 52.5. Should be a massively high-scoring game. I am not strong enough to start Rashee Rice, a guy who could be the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth option this week. I don't know. I am going to play Pickens. He is the number one option. Pickett is going to play in that game. Yes, it could be low-scoring. The total on that game, and quite frankly, it should be low-scoring. Total in that game is 38 right now. I had Mike Shope on the Better Sports Network High Stakes Fantasy Football Show last night. His recurring joke every week is every time the Ravens and the Steelers play, the final score is always 16-15, which is not far from the truth. Not far from the truth at all. And it could be a low-scoring game. Still can't play Rice. I'm still playing Pickens in this game over Rice. That's how I would play it. How would you do it?
The Lude is definitely not stupid. He is brave and creative and risk-taking, and all those things should be rewarded. If you are, if you've got one of those numbers by your team when you go to the FFPC and look, if you've got a 1 through 4, go ahead and play Pickens. If you're knocking on the door in head-to-head, go ahead and play Pickens. If you're 10, 11, and 12, you drafted Rice and you love him and you're looking for hope, play Rice. Yeah. Play it based on where your standings are, because Pickens is a number one. Thursday night we saw a number one receiver explode. That's not going to happen against Baltimore, but Balky's right. This is still a very good number one receiver who is without Johnson in the receiving corps. Am I right about that, Balky? Is
Johnson's still on IR?
Deontay Johnson on IR. So this is a number one receiver in a game where he has to step up, and you don't know what you can get out of that, but most of the time it'll be really good.
That is how we fall on that, Chris. We appreciate you watching, appreciate you chiming in. We had a couple of trades in the NFL today. One affects fantasy more than the other. Diana Rossini, the intelligent reporter for The Athletic, the intelligent, intrepid reporter for The Athletic, reported today that the Chicago Bears have finally traded wide receiver Chase Claypool to the Dolphins in exchange for a 6th-round pick. The Bears also sending a 7th-rounder in 2025 as well. Claypool now goes to Miami, his new team, his 3rd team in the league. As a reminder, since the Bears traded that 2nd-round pick for him, which ended up being the first pick in the 2nd round last year, Claypool has 18 catches in 10 games. I have been clinging on to him in one of my dynasty leagues, and it's probably a fool's errand. Probably shouldn't be letting him go right now. Ferrell, I just wanted to see where he would be going to. The place for fantasy goodness for Chase Claypool is not in Miami. Not behind Tyreek Hill, not behind Jalen Waddle, not behind the electric running game they have with Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. I can't get behind Claypool at this point. To me, this is a nothing burger. To me, normally when you bring stuff like this up, we're talking about reasons to get guys rostered and get guys in your starting lineup. To me, final nail in the coffin. No reason to roster Claypool in redraft or dynasty anymore.
Yeah, that's right, Balky. I've always been a Claypool supporter, never a Claypool apologist. If you go back to when he had that off-season problem in the summer in a bar, it's never good for NFL players to be arrested in a bar. So that's not a good situation. So then, it's fallen apart since then. And you bring this up, Balky. I was introduced to Claypool when the last time that the Notre Dame Fighting Irish came to Louisville to play. And I watched them walk out on the field. They just look like an NFL team. The size difference is so impressive. And tomorrow, the Irish once again travel to Louisville. And we'll see the same thing. But let's get back to Claypool. I tried to look. Well, I know I did look. I'm not the detective you are, but I looked at the staff down at Miami because I'm trying to find someone that can reclaim this player's talent and get him back in the right direction. And there's somebody down there, I don't know who it is. I found out some interesting things as I went through their football administration. Did you know that Fergie is a partner in the Miami Dolphins ownership team? And
what?
Fergie. And did you also know there's a guy, Balky, his last name is Nielsen. I met him years ago when he was working for Green Bay at $6 an hour, so he says, and now he's in special projects there in Miami. He's more of a numbers guy. It's a tremendous. You can learn so much about what an NFL team's thinking by just going and looking at their people. But yeah, Fergie's a partner. I don't think either one of those people are the people that are going to get involved with him. So maybe it's the guys in the room. Maybe it's the players. Maybe it's the head coach. I see a lot of talent here. That's why they're willing, a very good team, to take a risk on that player.
And it's a low risk type thing. It's great for the team. But as far as fantasy goes, like it's like Ferrell, I cling on to players like Grim Death. And this is a player I can finally feel like I can let go, right? Like yeah. I am Rose, what was her name? Rose DeWitt in Titanic. Mm-hmm. I am letting go of Jack Dawson on that piece of driftwood in the Atlantic Ocean right now. I'm going to let Chase Claypool sink to the bottom. I hope he rises. I don't know if he will, but it won't be rising with my team.
It was hard to let Jack go. It's not hard to let Claypool go.
No, it's not. It was much easier. He's like the
he's the but hey, I can remember some 30-point Sundays with Claypool. You know.
I do too. Mapletron. Remember when he was Mapletron?
Yeah. I think he still is. It's just you've lost your taste for maple.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm more of an Oak guy myself. Khalil Herbert had an ankle injury last night on Thursday Night Football. Jeremy Fowler is reporting that Herbert says he's going to be fine. Now, this was a really awkward play. The Dizzle actually chimed in on one of my group chats saying that he tore his ACL. He was sure he tore his ACL. I texted Jim Cole. I said, this looks like a significant ankle or knee injury. He came back in, but after one carry, he kind of shook his head and then came off the field, never entered in again. They had Blasingame, their fullback, taking snaps. Remember, this is a game where Rashawn Johnson went out with a concussion. We know Herbert had the ankle injury. Travis Minor got hurt, and they already deactivated Deontay Foreman. As we look forward, as we're always trying to chase after the guy behind the guy, Ferrell, are we chasing after Deontay Foreman? Are we believing that Herbert's going to be okay? They get the mini bye this week. What would you do as far as roster manipulation right now with the Bears backfield? Is there something to be said right now for Foreman or Minor in the leagues that they're available in?
Perhaps, but there's something to be said for Roschon Johnson as you hope he gets out of protocol real soon because this is a player. He's a very, very good player. If he had some more opportunities last night, we would have saw that. And Blasingame, God bless him, 5 yards in a cloud of dust. They couldn't bring him down. Those were his first carries in the NFL. Good for him.
As a guy who ends Justin Fields in several leagues, I was like, boy, I hope they don't start letting Fields carry the mail here because he was taking way too many shots already. Like, I need that guy healthy. He made it through okay, and that's good. That's all we're hoping for is healthy players having fun. We're going to have some fun with tonight's guest. I'm going to bring him in right now. A former FFPC Main Event League champion and a winner of pretty much countless KFFSC Main Event and other leagues in the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. He and his co-manager and my co-host, Ferrell Elliott, currently sit in 35th place overall after last night's action in the 2023 FFPC Main Event as they are chasing a $1 million grand prize. Please welcome the guy who enjoys his Coronas at Del Mar. It is Trevor Holt. Trevor, welcome into the program, man. Welcome in. Doing good. Excited to have you on. How does it feel? I know that you guys had some action with DJ Moore last night, but how does it feel to look up at that leaderboard and see yourself in the top 40 right now for $1 million?
Yeah, it feels good. I thought I'd bring some Coach Prime vibes.
I like it.
Sunglasses on.
I like it. I know he said he doesn't go to Florida State. He never went to Florida State, but I am wearing my Florida State Seminoles national championship sweatshirt right now. I'm at least repping the Deion Sanders. I gotta screw. I'm screwing this up right now. There it is. There's my Seminoles logo here tonight. If you can see it, I'm wearing that. You're representing Coach Prime. all it is greatness. And Trevor, you guys have greatness right now in the top 35 in the FFPC main event. I'd love to be you right now. And my God, DJ Moore, you had to love watching that last night.
Oh, did love it. Did love it.
We had a we had a dare to be great Thursday night. Now, Balky, before you get too carried away with this team, Trevor and I will point out that in our division or in our league, we are what are we, the fourth qualifier for the playoffs if it started today?
We're in on points because head to head we've not had a lot of luck.
We attract we attract it's nice to have a 40-point score and a 30-point scorer out of the quarterback position, but usually we attract that in our competition. We can lose more games 190 to 180. But Trevor recruited me as his co-manager, and you talk about carrying the weight. It's all been on Trevor Holt's shoulders this year, including Balky. If you look over our free agency in this league, Sam Howell was picked up in week 3, I believe, maybe week 2. However it was, is Trevor planning ahead for the bye week for quarterback Herbert, which is this week. And I looked askance at it a couple times, but never said anything about it because I could what I saw last week from Hal and what I saw in one half from Hal. So congratulations, Trevor, on that free agency pickup.
Yeah, definitely just a 1-week play for us, but I think he was the right play. Mm-hmm. Didn't think so in the first half, but.
And I'll tell you this, people will be like, oh my God, these guys are starting Sam Howell or whatever. Well, bear in mind, it was the Bears of defense, which has been historically bad this year. And I'll also say this, and I shouldn't even be saying this. I told my buddy, Ferrell, you met my buddy Matt before.
Great guy. Yeah,
great guy. I was talking to him tonight, and I said, you're not going to believe this, but in the Kentucky Dynasty League this week, I have to start Zach Wilson at quarterback. Mm-hmm. And the only 2 quarterbacks I have on my roster are him and Aaron Rodgers. The only other option I have is Mac Jones. I have 2 teams in that league, and Trevor, I don't know if you're in this league or not. 2 teams in that league rostering 4 quarterbacks, including 1 team rostering 3 quarterbacks plus Patrick Mahomes. So as a result, I'm starting Zach Wilson. I cannot make fun or poke holes in anybody wanting to start a quarterback, no matter how bad they are this week, because I'm starting the worst one, quite frankly, in my opinion. Trevor, listen, we want to get into fantasy talk. I know it's already 27 minutes past the top of the hour, and everybody wants us to get into it with you. Before we do that, can you tell us what you're doing for a living when you're not winning all these Kentucky leagues and hanging up at the top of the leaderboard in the FFPC main event?
Sure. Work for a company in Louisville called Republic Diesel, machine shop, and I run their driveline department. So we build drive shafts for trucks, cars, off-highway equipment, all kinds of different things. But yeah, that's what I do for a living.
Blue collar work, which makes you understand that if Trevor Holt is in your league, you're not going to outwork him. He is going to outwork you in lineups and the waiver wire, no question. And I think, Ferrell, the first thing we should talk about with Trevor is the fact that you have not gotten the biggest bang for your buck from your first and third round picks, yet your guys are still crushing it right now.
Well, okay. Thank you, Balky. Trevor, if you recall, Austin Eckler, we took Eckler 4th. We did not think McCaffrey would be available. He was, but we had convinced ourselves that Eckler was our pick and our guy, and we stayed on that. And, we got the reverse of it. Eckler has been on the shelf with the injury. He comes back. In the second round, we had a choice of receivers, and I remember we took Devonta Smith because we were going to stack him with the third round Hurts, and somebody had the audacity to take Hurts before he got back to us. And then we ended up with Jamar Gibbs, and Balky is trying to tell us that these players, he's trying to say that our running backs, Trevor, might be
okay.
He's just kind of insulting our running back.
Hold on. I'm going to object to the attorney, J. Ferrell Elliott, who is leading the witness here. And
You're
so
leading the witness.
Yeah, you're leading the witness. I'm the judge here. I'm going to sustain the argument. Trevor, I'm going to reframe the question here. You guys can't be thrilled with how it's gone for Austin Eckler and Jahmyr Gibbs so far. Yet you guys are still in the thick of it to winning a 7-figure grand prize. I think that's the story here and you could probably, I mean, feel free to disagree with me. I don't think you will, but you know, these people that say you can lose your fantasy draft in the first round, clearly that's not the case, because you could have gone with different guys in the first round that would put you in a better spot, but you still have the best of Austin Eckler to come. You still have the best of Jahmyr Gibbs to come, we think, and you're already in the top 40, man.
Yeah. I think what saved us on the Eckler pick is getting Karen Williams late. If you look at his points, if you just took his name off the board, it would almost look like Austin Eckler points. 17, 28, 27. So that kind of saved us in that regard. And
I will also point out, Balky, that I was getting real busy. Normally we draft our team much earlier in the year, and we drafted later this year. And the later we drafted it, two things happened. I got busy with the Kentucky event. And I also, this is something, and there's a lot of partnerships at play. You mentioned you're playing some leagues with Jim Cole. I was distracted, and so the last few rounds I said, Trevor, take it home. He made a couple good picks of Rams players. Thank you, sir. My contributions to the draft, several of them in the double-digit rounds, have been sent packing in free agency. We've had a very good free agency run, but I think I made a mistake of I drafted a great deal. And we were in the situation, and I don't think I served well as a partner, Trevor, because I was willing to say, I don't have that guy anywhere, so why not? And that's not a great reason to draft a player. And I think that's, I look at it in one round. I had Pittman on almost every team, and we came down to Pittman and Pickens, and I really like Pittman. But I tell myself, you know what? Trevor likes Pickens. Let's go with Pickens.
Yeah.
And that probably is the only one spot that if I had jumped up and said, you know what, no, I want to have Pittman here, that we would have had Pittman. And I think our early results would be better.
The thing I remember most about the Gibbs pick was, I know a lot of the picks in the slow drafts, you might be on the clock for at least an hour or so. But when we came on the clock for that one, I got a quick phone call from Ferrell saying, I'm okay with taking Gibbs here. And I knew he really wanted Gibbs. In that third round.
And I think, and so we look at Gibbs, and he's yet to find the end zone, but he's averaging 4.6 yards a carry. He's caught 14 balls, I think, and he'll catch more. And so that's on a pace that even if he doesn't catch more, he's going to end up with 60 plus. I think that's about what we were looking for. People spent. And there's been more yardage production out of Bijan Robinson. People spent a first-round draft pick on him, and he hasn't had a rushing touchdown either. So I don't want to consider any of these young players bust this early because, you get them because they'd be playing better at the end of the year. And God forbid, David Montgomery's not going to carry the ball 450 times this year. So at some point, we're going to be okay.
I think the other thing and I'm as guilty as anybody when I was upset with the Lions and how they were using Gibbs when Montgomery was hurt. At least they were using him. I mean, they were pounding him. You don't necessarily want to see all that between the tackle stuff with Gibbs, but at least they were using him. I mean, at least they're trying to exploit him in a certain regard. We'll see if they can exploit him in the way that we as fantasy, wasn't it Ben Johnson, the OC, that said, we're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs in ways that you're probably not used to? Well, or you're probably going to be surprised at. I'm definitely surprised at the way that they have been using him so far. No question there. I just like to see more use rather than non-use. And Trevor's too modest to mention it. And Ferrell, you kind of teased it. But part of the reason you guys have been so successful this year, Trevor took in the 16th round Kyron Williams, and in the 20th round, some guy named Puka Nacua, who has been crushing it for you guys so far. Congratulations on that. God bless Sean McVay, one of my favorite coaches for fantasy in fantasy football right now, based on what he's been able to do. Let's get into I think it was the second round. So Trevor, you had the opportunity to take either Devontae Smith or Chris Olave. You guys end up going with Devontae Smith there. Olave goes with the next pick. Can you take us through why you guys like Smith over Olave this year?
Sure, I'll give Ferrell credit for that because if I'd have been drafting by myself, I probably would have took Olave. But on a lot of our picks, sometimes Ferrell will tell me, just hey, take who you want this time, and that he made a strong case for him there that he just liked the quarterback better. He wasn't impressed with Derek Carr and liked Hurts a lot more, and so I'll give Ferrell credit for that. And I think right now it looks like the right pick.
So far, so good, and I love Olave. We love Olave, and we thought we could get Hurts. We thought we could get Hurts, but we didn't. And Olave with Thomas coming back, put a little question mark on that. And Trevor says, yeah, I think we've covered that. But Smith and we thought Smith was going to take a step forward in that offense this year. So far, so good. So much, yes.
Let's move on here, and talk about what we saw last night. My God, it was unbelievable. Justin Fields for the second straight game absolutely puts on a clinic in the first half against the Commanders last night. Trevor, I don't know if you watched this game. Do you think Fields now, quote unquote, gets it? Do you think he's dialed in? And as a result, is DJ Moore going to be the type of guy that you can more than likely lock into your starting lineups going forward?
Yeah, I don't know if Fields gets it yet. He's probably still going to be up and down for the year. But DJ Moore, yeah, definitely. He's going to be an every week play now. He's basically all they have at receiver, in my opinion.
And that's the comment. That's the first time I can go with that. All you have commentary.
Yeah.
It's it's like nails on the blackboard. They don't have anything else. But honestly, do you see all those wide receivers that Washington put into the offense last night? And that's just not there at Fields. And Mooney can't get together. It's the tight end and it's more. And I can't believe, Trevor, when we were sitting there, we were picking fourth in the fourth round. So
yeah,
ninth and whatever it is. We're at the end of the fourth round. I say, is DJ Moore really going to fall all the way to us? And there were guys that was going off the board prior to Moore that it would have never considered.
His next three matchups too are Vikings, Raiders, Chargers. I wrote that down, so I'm happy with that.
Vikings, Raiders, and Chargers. Go ahead.
Okay. They're on bye this week, Trevor, but we're going to talk about the Seahawks anyway. Zach Charbonnet was falling in during draft season as that one of those first injury away type guys, right? Like all he needs is an opportunity, and he's going to be able to be a top 15 running back because of his pass catching chops. Kenneth Walker has not gotten hurt, and he's been very successful in that Seahawks offense so far. Knowing that you guys have Charbonnet on this roster, is it going to take a Walker injury for you guys to flex out Charbonnet, or is there still some standalone value in the next few weeks coming up where you're like, you know what, maybe Charbonnet as a flex play with the bye weeks going on isn't the worst idea in the world?
No, I think if you're playing him as a flex, you're probably in trouble. He's definitely going to need, not rooting for, but you're going to need the injury to ever think about putting him in the lineup. And really on our team, he's probably only one of the guys we have that are like that on the bench, kind of the upside, need something to break their way kind of guys. But no, you can't flex him right now.
He runs with authority and he looks good, and I'm glad he's there. We didn't draft Olave because we liked Thomas, and we ended up with Thomas way down in the draft. Now we have the choice between Thomas and Pickens. It's going to be your decision, Trevor. You don't have to make it on Friday night, but you do got to tell Balky and the listeners how you're leaning.
Yeah. That usually is the hardest choice, is your last flex spot. And I was thinking about playing Thomas just because I think he's a lock to catch 5 or 6 short targets, maybe gets his first touchdown. And with Pickens, I wasn't sure about Pickett right now, but I guess it looks like he's going to play. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. My guts tell me play Thomas. I'm thinking he's a lock for 6-7 catches, 50, 60 yards, and maybe gets on the board.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's like, Pickens definitely has the higher ceiling here, but when you look at time, and the other thing to consider is the health of Derek Carr's shoulder. I mean, my God, if Alvin Kamara goes back-to-back 13 catch performances, we have an issue in the Big Easy, and it's not good for Olave, it's not good for Thomas, and anything like that. I'm hoping we get more information about Carr, and if it's good, then I'd feel better about Thomas. Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like Pickens is the slam dunk, but this is something you guys will be probably wrestling with over the next 48 hours.
The Lude wants to start Rashee Rice over Pickens.
Over Pickens, yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah,
we can follow the Lude and be all right.
I think the Patriots are beat up on defense too.
Yeah. They made that trade. Was it J.C. Jackson, Ferrell, that they just acquired from the Chargers? Yeah. And they're talking about making him active this week. And I'm like, my God, if you're making him act, and I understand he's been with the Patriots before, so it's not like a guy who doesn't understand what's going on. But still, that is a little bit of a caution flag for me. When you talk about, the Patriots, I'm playing the Patriots defense in a couple leagues in Kentucky this week. And even I was kind of like, God, you're going to start him right away. Okay. All right. I guess that's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with Trevor Holt, the 35th place team co-owner with Ferrell Elliott in the FFPC main event right now. Wan'Dale Robinson, Trevor, you grabbed him off the waiver wire last week. I grabbed him off the waiver wire in a couple of leagues as well. Quite frankly, I'm stumbling around in the dark, trying to hook onto something with the Giants wide receivers right now. I've grasped onto Wan'Dale Robinson for my team. I don't know if there's any fantasy goodness there. Can you sell me on Wan'Dale Robinson? I think there's something. I just don't know how much this is there.
Sure. Coming off knee injury, I told Ferrell I watched that game, and I think he only ran like 11 routes. They threw him the ball 5-6 times. He looked a lot more explosive than Paris Campbell. And I think it said last game he ran like 62% of the routes. So he's, they're ramping him up. And just to the eye test, to me, he's the most explosive person they have. I mean, besides Hyatt, but they're just not throwing it to Hyatt. But yeah, I mean, he's somebody kind of maybe like Thomas. He's going to catch a lot of short passes, and he may not have the ceiling, but I think he's definitely playable. And
we loved him and loved the fact that he was on the waiver wire. If we go back a year, he was a 10th, 11th round draft pick here and in the FFPC, and it's low hanging fruit. Trevor saw it and locked in on it early. You get a little jaded when you begin. You have to be patient. It's good to be patient with players you like. We had a lot of players on the waiver wire that we benefited to pick up. I think they'll have good years, but they were available because other owners in the league were not patient. And this is Trevor has it lined out. And there was I forget who carried the last game, but the analyst pointed out that the Giants had thrown the ball twice beyond 10 yards. So if they're not going to throw the ball downfield, they have no other option than to seek Robinson and Waller, who will eventually begin to catch passes.
Is he? Do we know that, Ferrell?
Yes, he will.
Okay, all right.
And I would have to say that we were a little bit saved in the draft because the reason we ended up with Moore, the reason Moore was available and it was such an easy choice. I think we made the pick. Is it the 8-hour clock, Trevor? Is it 6-hour clock?
We did the 6, yeah.
6-hour clock. And I think we made the choice like 5 minutes into the 6-hour clock to take Moore. And prior to him, Waller and Kittle went off the board. So we were fortunate in that regard. But yeah, Waller, it's going to be a Waller and Robinson show there.
I think there's a lot of people regretting picking Waller over Hockenson this year. That's one of those things, like, you never know, because remember, Waller, and people have been talking about this last couple of weeks on all the fantasy podcasts. Waller built up so much speed in drafts where he surpassed Hockenson. And now we're 4 weeks into the season and people have to be like, what in the hell was I thinking taking Waller over Hockenson? It's always, it's a cautionary tale. Anytime you buy into the late draft hype, you never know how it's going to end up. And certainly it's ended up bad so far for Waller owners, and it's been great for Hockenson owners who took advantage of that. Ferrell, you guys had an interesting transaction this past week in regards to your defense and dropping a running back I was going after in Kentucky. Let's talk about that with Trevor here.
Yeah, you're talking about Jordan Mason?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one we probably should have talked more about. We probably should have dropped Zamir White because, I think I have 8 teams in Kentucky, and I have Jordan Mason on every one of them.
Yeah, well,
Mike Davis effect.
We'll just shut it down, and we'll maybe go back and get him. But the Texans, I'm liking all things that are coming out of Texas right now, and I see a great opportunity for points this weekend against an Atlanta team that is feeling a great deal of pressure. I could be wrong, but I think the defenses can be a real thing when they're playmaking defenses. And oddly enough, I think that's what we've got in Houston.
Well, and one of those playmakers and the much maligned too. I remember when a lot of people were, thinking that the trade to get Will Anderson in the draft, where the Texans forfeit their first round pick next year. A lot of people were not understanding that. This is a dude he's got a sack on the season. He's been getting after the quarterback. He's been making some plays. And, part of the reason, obviously, everybody wants to talk about C.J. Stroud and how successful he's been. And Nico Collins, obviously, Tank Dell, been huge cogs in the machine for the Texans this year. Don't forget about that Texans defense. Will Anderson's making plays back there. That's who you guys ended up grabbing instead of Jordan Mason this week, or you dropped Jordan Mason for him. And that could work out. I mean, like the Texans – going on the road to Atlanta, it's kind of a coin flip type game, and we've seen the point spread drop from 3.5 in favor of the Falcons all the way down to 1.5. Who knows where that's going to go? But there's a lot of money coming in on the Texans right now. I think we kind of covered this. I'm going to ask you anyway, Trevor. Is the toughest lineup decision that you're facing this week for this particular league Michael Thomas versus George Pickens? And if so, we don't have to analyze it. Is there another tough lineup decision in one of your Kentucky leagues that you're looking at this week that you just don't know what the hell to do with?
Yeah, it's definitely that on this team, and it's always, to me, the last flex spot. But, I'd have to go back and look at my Kentucky teams. But, yeah, it's always the last flex spot. I mean, they're just a coin flip most of the time, And
that's just the coolness. That is the coolness of Trevor Holt. He's even. It's like the river flows at one speed all the time. It's a great part. I'll tell you something that you brought up, and I shot it down last week, Balky, and it's proof again that I could use a partner like Trevor. You brought up the fact of Logan Thomas, and I said no. Let's let somebody else get him. Let's let somebody else play him. And despite all those targets at Washington, Logan Thomas had a wonderful game. He almost caught a 50-ish yard touchdown. He looked physical. He made a catch at his shoe tops. Based on his contribution in that one game, the tight end play has been so suspect. We're waiting for one game from Goddard, and we're waiting for one game from the aforementioned Waller. And in some situations, we've just given up on completely, and reasonably so. But, I gave terribly wrong advice about Logan Thomas because, he's not the most physical tight end. He's 32 years old, but, he's a big target, and he caught the ball well. And the quarterback seems to love him. And I just remember, young quarterback, veteran tight end, is such a great formula. So
I will say this, I'm not going to take a victory lap on Logan Thomas, and quite frankly, no, I'm not going to, because on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show last night with Mike Shope, I was notably muted when it came to Logan Thomas. I said, yeah, we'll see on that. I kind of poo-pooed it a little bit. But remember that it took 55 straight passing plays called by the Commanders last night in the last 2.5 quarters of play in order for Logan Thomas to achieve his 9 for 77 and 1 touchdown night. He was open underneath all the livelong day because the Bears were sitting back. It required the right game script, and we did see the right game script for Logan Thomas last night. And I'm sure this won't be his last game like this season, but good luck trying to predict it. But certainly Logan Thomas, awesome last night, as well as, and we'll give you props, and I didn't give you props before, or should have given you more, Trevor, but that Sam Howell performance last night, it gets lost in the shuffle, right? They lose by 3 touchdowns, but Howell, 388 yards, 2 touchdowns. You got to love it, 19 yards on the ground. That helped as well. Let's go to the emails here, Trevor, for you. The first one is from Terry in Atlanta. What's up, man? If Saquon Barkley is active, how confident are you in starting him this week? Thanks so much. That is Terry in Atlanta. We kind of talked about a little bit about this with, I believe it was Hudson Kern-Reeve at the top of the program tonight. But Trevor, we didn't get your insight on this. Obviously, it always depends like who your other options are. But Saquon Barkley this week, as it stands right now, is sort of like a fringe top 25 guy. He's at Miami this week. If he is active, how confident would you feel about starting him?
Yeah, I don't have him on any teams, but if he's active, I'd be confident. I know they said at first it was a normal ankle sprain, then it was a high ankle sprain, but if he's out there, I got to believe he's healthy enough to play. And it should.
God, don't they need him?
Yeah, and he would also fall in the category if there's not much behind him. If you're counting on Matt Breida, so yeah, and they should be a desperate team. So if he's out there, yeah, I'd feel good starting him.
I'm just kind of curious. I didn't look at it. I'll look at it right now as far as the spread and the total on that game. That is a 1:00 game. Giants are, 11.5-point dogs in a game that features a 47.5 total on it. So, yeah.
He can still catch passes.
To echo Ferrell, they do need Barkley. I mean, big time. They need
absolutely.
Barkley this week.
Yeah.
One other email here for you, Trevor. This is from Ed in Los Angeles. How's it going? Oh, this is a question about last night. What happened to Brian Robinson Thursday night, and should I expect this to happen again? I already mentioned it. Thank you for the email, Ed. I already mentioned it. 55 straight called passing plays in the last 2.5 quarters of play. To me, this is an outlier. I was burned by Brian Robinson. I had him going in a ton of leagues last night. I had a lot of confidence in him. It just didn't work out. Trevor, I don't know what your shares of Brian Robinson look like. How do you feel about him going forward? Was this an outlier or was this a harbinger of things to come?
Yeah, definitely an outlier. I heard some stat, like you said, it was since they've charted that was the most consecutive passes ever thrown without a designed run play called. So, yeah, so that tells you it's a total fluke. But, yeah, I have him maybe 3 or 4 times as an RB2, and I'd still play him. He gets all the goal line. He's catching the ball more this year than last year. So, yeah.
And we should mention that too, like kind of what saved his night, 6 carries for 10 yards. He did have 4 catches for 33 yards. Antonio Gibson did get 4 catches for 64 yards. But the point is made here with you, Trevor. Brian Robinson is catching the ball a lot this year. He has already caught, let's see, what have we got here? 9 catches already on the season, which is I guess he's only projected for 31 catches this year. But what did he have last year? I mean, it couldn't have been 31. I feel like he is much more involved in the passing game than he was in years prior. He's on pace for 13 touchdowns, nearly 1,000-yard season. Yeah, more often than not, he is going to get it done for you. Ferrell, I'm fresh out of emails for Trevor Holt.
Oh, I would, my normal question, Trevor, that I have to have, I gotta supplant. Well, no, I'll go ahead and ask it, but then I want to comment. Trevor, you've got strong opinions. Who is the player that you are completely avoiding this weekend in lineups? Who is the player that will make you legendary? We probably already had him for this team, but who's the player that's still to play that will make you a legendary fantasy player this weekend?
Okay, and the rule is it has to be somebody we've not talked
We
about.
can't talk about it.
Trevor watches the show.
Right.
No in-show reruns, Trevor. No in-show reruns. No.
So your legendary guy, just because he's due, is going to be Jalen Waddle.
He's
due for a blow-up game. Maybe not quite DJ Moore, but maybe half of that. So, yeah. So Jalen Waddle is going to be the legendary guy this week. The absolute avoid, I will say Ramondre Stevenson. I've got bad out of there.
Yeah, it doesn't look good in the backfield.
Yeah.
And then, as you listen to that, the people that are listening to Trevor Holt and don't know him, I got a quick story. Trevor Holt's life in the FFPC began by winning a bid to play live at Planet Hollywood several years ago with a top finish. 2.38 was the number that kept Trevor out of the championship. He's a runner-up. 2.38 was the difference there. And his runner-up in the league. And so he shows up in Las Vegas to play his first ever competition in the FFPC and is signed up for Friday night, 6 p.m., I think, Balky. And at his 12-team league was Hubbard, Danny Mueller, those Azell brothers that carry around a special hammer for Kentucky players. You know, they just
Bill and Don,
me especially, just and others that noted of similar talent. And Trevor walked away with that league championship. So you know, it's a lot of great history.
That was the only thing I won in Vegas that year.
Well, that's what you went for. That was your endorsed purpose for being there, sir.
And Trevor, that's a lot more than a lot of people win in Las Vegas. So congratulations there. Before we let you go, let's go back to our man, the Lude, Chris Lude. He has a quarterback question here. Trevor, I'll pitch this to you. He's got a quarterback conundrum. He's got Jared Goff at home against the Panthers or Trevor Lawrence in London against the Bills on Sunday morning. Which quarterback would you tell him to start?
Another strong opinion. I don't think I'd start Goff. Lawrence, I don't know what's going on with them either, but they've looked kind of shaky on offense too. So give me Goff in that one.
Yeah, even if Gibbs is unavailable, and even if
he can throw it to Laporta, he can throw it to Reynolds, and then Jameson Williams. I know he's first game back, but he can one catch, he can house it. So yeah, give me Goff.
Trevor Lawrence spends so much time in England; he's in line for the crown. He's in that line of lineage to be the king of England one of these days. So I'm going to say that I'm going to follow Trevor Holt.
Jaguars back-to-back games in London. I have not been looking for it, but I bet the social media digital assets of the Jaguars loose in London would be very, very entertaining to see how these guys are killing their downtime going forward across the pond. I don't know. Well, I'll look for it this weekend.
Not enough ice.
Not enough ice, exactly. I'll tell you what, there is no cooling the team that Ferrell Elliott and Trevor Holt have put together as they are charging up hard on that FFPC main event leaderboard. Trevor, congratulations on number one, all your success in the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. Number two, your success that you've already had in the FFPC. And number three, good luck the rest of the way trying to bring home this 7-figure grand prize. I apologize that you're saddled with a co-owner like Ferrell Elliott, but you have been rising to the occasion to get it done so far. Congratulations on that. Thanks so much for joining the show tonight, and I hope you enjoy week 5 and have a great weekend.
You too. See you guys.
Thank you so much. The mayor of Del Mar, where he is pounding Coronas right now, it is Trevor Holt, the co-owner of the KFFSC Ferrell Elliott brainchild that is in 35th place right now. And Ferrell, congratulations to you, because I know you've had a hand in it. You've been very modest about it so far, but this has got to be fun for you too, to see a team this high up.
Yeah, it is. And it's, I don't think that kind of excitement, even for guys that are there, with multiple teams, our beloved Chad Schroeder, FPI, these guys that you see their name peppered throughout the list. But, let's be honest, we had 2 big performances from Thursday night players, so we're in there. So we're coming out of there. Right. But we've got a chance when the dust settles to be better off in week 5 than we were in week 4, and we still got a lot of football in front of us. So it's exciting, and it's a good it's just a good way to enjoy fantasy football differently by partnering, with players that not only do you respect their skill set, but you like them as dudes. And Trevor Holt's one of the best guys you'll ever meet.
And he's done it before. I mean, he's gone up against the best and come away with an FFPC main event league title. So he's got the chops to do it. Obviously, you've seen in Kentucky.
Yeah, I let him get off here without. He's obligated to attend. He and his dad Tony obligated to attend the Super Bowl drafting party this year. Balky, I let him slip off the hook last year because he was somewhere.
Well, he's obligated this year.
Nip that in the bud.
Absolutely.
He's coming. This Lude guy needs to show up too. He's very active.
Yeah, Chris Lude, we'd love to see you there. Make sure that and by the way, for that Super Bowl party, what's the best way to get your spot? Right? I mean, are you just going to KFFSC.com?
Well, we're going to open up registration next week, but if you would like to talk further with me about it, I don't have anything to do after midnight tonight. So my number is 502-523-5057. But we will be up next week on the at the website KFFSC.com. Open an account and join the league. It's $300. And we get Balky. You're missing a 5 there.
I screwed it up. You're
going to get some sort of a situation there in the Philippines or something. But
5057, right? 5057.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But the $300 entry per team in the Sweet 16, 96 team league, $10,000 overall grand prize.
Mm-hmm. All right, now I think I got it here. I'm gonna leave this up. I'm gonna leave it up there right now. We're talking now. Let's go through rapid fire and help some people with their lineups for Week 5. We'll kick things off in Chicago. Al in Chicago. No Justin Herbert for me this week. So do I start Jordan Love or do I start CJ Stroud? Thanks, guys. That is Al in Chicago. Jordan Love is going up against the Las Vegas Raiders on Monday Night Football. CJ Stroud, we already talked about the Texans. He is in Atlanta. I'm probably not the right guy to ask about this, Ferrell, because I'm going to say Jordan Love, but I am biased.
And I think that's the right pick. Garoppolo is going to be back for the Raiders. I think both teams will move the ball, more offense in the desert. That game is out there in the carpet in the desert, right?
Yes.
So there's much more activity in that game than I'm expecting in Atlanta. So yeah, let's definitely put Love out there.
We are ready for Love on Monday Night Football. That's the way we're rolling on this. Let's go to our next email running back question here from Charlie in Charleston, West Virginia. Is it time to sit Jahmyr Gibbs? I'd be putting in Raheem Mostert instead of him. We kind of talked about, thank you for the email, Charlie. We kind of talked about Jahmyr Gibbs early. We don't know if he's going to go. We think he's going to go, but we don't know for sure. The fact that he's beat up right now and the Dolphins offense seems to be clicking and they have such a good matchup. I'm not saying they put up 70 against the Giants, but we could see a big game from Achane and from Mostert. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely feel good with sitting Gibbs in favor of Mostert this week.
Yeah, and if that's the choice you've got to make, you've got a very good team. Congratulations.
Let's go to, who am I looking at? John? Is this John's email? Yeah, John in Hanover, Maryland. Hey, Balky and Ferrell, with Michael Wilson's breakout, would you play him over Drake London this week? I love your show. Thanks. That is John in Hanover, Maryland. John, we love your emails coming in for sure. So you have Drake London taking on the Houston Texans this week at home. You have Michael Wilson, who is going to also be at home, taking on the 1-3. Can't believe I'm saying that. Cincinnati Bengals. Was Wilson's breakout enough for you to say, yeah, I should be playing him over London? I don't know if I'm all the way there yet, Ferrell. It's close, but I'm going to say Drake London here.
We've talked about patience. There's nothing that will try your patience more than the Atlanta Falcons offense. But for better or worse, you are with London. And we're gonna play London, and we're gonna hold our breath against a Texans team that I think will make plays on the quarterback. It's difficult. It's a very difficult situation. I don't think we've seen enough from Wilson yet. I like the player, but if it ever clicks in Atlanta, it will have to click through London. So that's what I would go with.
Yeah, I have Wilson on a lot of dynasty teams. I'm hoping I don't have to deploy him in some Kentucky main events this week, but I might have to, given the Amon-Ra St. Brown injury status. We'll see what happens there. If I do have to, I have to, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think London's the type of guy that is going to be. I feel more comfortable in his volume and his usage, and I know it's the Falcons and anything's possible. But I think it's London over Wilson, at least for one more week. And if you like that question, about the Falcons offense, Ferrell. You're going to love this one. Brent in Twin Falls, Idaho. Hey, dudes, here's the weirdest question you'll get all weekend. Do I start Kyle Pitts or Jonnu Smith? Have a great week 5. That is Brent in Twin Falls, Idaho. I have never, in the history of doing this show, 12 or 13 years, whatever it's been, I can't remember a person asking us which tight end they should start from the same team. And that's the question we get here. Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith at home against the Texans this week. Jonnu Smith dominating as far as usage goes over Kyle Pitts. That said, if I have this choice, I'm still going to start the upside guy. I know Jonnu Smith has been more heavily used. Kyle Pitts to me seems like the type of guy, Ferrell, when you start getting cute with him, that's when he starts performing. I don't know if that's what's going to happen this week, but I will really regret starting Jonnu Smith over Kyle Pitts if Pitts blows up this week. I'm going to lean towards Pitts here. If you want to start Smith, that's fine. I get it. I understand why you'd want to do that. I think it's a defendable decision, but me personally, I'm going with Pitts.
Please go to the waiver wire and see what you can stir up. On the team, on the team that Trevor and I have, we were able to. Someone dropped Dalton Schultz, and not a ridiculous bid got him. So I'm concerned about your future. Balky's told you what to do here, and I'm concerned about your fantasy football future. And if you tell me that you also are considering picking up Herb Smith, I'm going to tell you it's going to be a very difficult year in Idaho. Boise State has got a pretty good team. Khalil Shakir is in the league. There's things that that you can do that are beyond this. It's amazing that everyone that is in business with Atlanta is having regrets, even the first round draft picks of the talented Robinson. Be patient. You got to stick with these guys. You don't want to have them have their breakout, their epiphany. They're bringing it together. They're playing for each other, as Coach Rivera says that the Commanders were. You don't want to have that happen while you're trying to get a backup Jonnu Smith, who I would like to call a productive journeyman tight end. He's a great NFL player, has no business being considered as a fantasy starter.
Bill Belichick gave him a ton of money too, so we know that
he's a wealthy journeyman.
Yeah, he's a wealthy.
Nobody talks about the fact that the Patriots throwing around a lot of money to guys that aren't scoring the ball anywhere.
Yeah, I guarantee you Patriots fans are talking about that, but on a nationwide scale, yeah, you're probably right, Ferrell.
No, Belichick didn't.
One last question here from Rubio. I think I know where you land on this, Ferrell, in the YouTube chat. Jonnu Smith or Darren Waller this week? It's a Darren Waller slam dunk for me.
Easy.
Okay, good, perfect. Let's end it on accord. Let's end it on positivity. Let's end it on agreement. We love doing that. Ferrell Elliott, the commissioner of the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, KFFSC.com. Remember, if you want to head over to the big game party live at Caesars Southern Indiana and party with luminaries like myself and all the other great people that are going to be there, give them a call, 502-523-5057, 502-523-5057, or check out the registration that will be up at KFFSC.com within the next week as well. We will continue to check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Follow you on Twitter, or the X machine as it is, KFFSC Official. Ferrell, thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you on. We'll do this again next week.
See you soon, buddy.
Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, joining me on the program tonight. Thanks to Trevor Holt, Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you for making us a part of your fantasy football week. We will return next Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern time. And I do believe we have a guest. Yes, Brian Carrero, who has a top 20 team in the FFPC main event right now. He will be our guest next week. Looking forward to that. In case you missed Tuesday's RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown with longtime FFPC players and champions, Chris Hart and Toby Bielkini. If you've ever seen Commando Fro in your leagues, that's those guys. They were on this past Tuesday. Check it out at check it out at youtube.com/FFPC Fantasy or anywhere you get your podcast. The show returns this Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern time. You can also check out the last night's High Stakes Fantasy Football show with myself and the Deep End Fantasy Football Podcast co-host and WGR 550 Buffalo Sports Talk radio host, Mike Shope. We chopped it up for 2 hours. A lot of fun. By the way, check out that second hour when we are broadcasting while trying to watch the DJ Moore experience in our nation's capital last night. It was a lot of fun. You can check that out at any of the FFPC social channels, as well as Better Sports, betternetwork.com, or any of the Better Sports Network social channels as well. This coming Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we'll go live for 2 hours with Brodo Fantasy Football's Matt Ward. The Psych Ward is going to be hanging out with me for 2 hours. That will be a must-watch show. Go to myffpc.com, myffpc.com, to play the FFPC Weekly Challenge. There is no draft. There is no salary cap. You're just choosing whatever players you want. 10 of them if you want to play without kickers and defenses. 12 of them if you want to play with kickers and defenses. Just get them in by Sunday's kickoff and then enjoy the ride for the weekend. You can play for a $35 entry fee, a $200 entry fee, and you can win up to $2,500. Same idea as the world-famous playoff challenge for the FFPC. Only one player per team. No stacking allowed. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, share it with strangers. We don't care. We just want you to share it, because the more you do that, the more content we can create for you. FFPC related content that is going to help you be a 7-figure champion this year, either in the FFPC Main Event, the Fantasy Pros Championship, or both. You never know. Remember to get notified. Click that notification bell, and every time we go live, you will be notified. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
One last thing, too. I said I'd mention this at the top of the program. Get your lineups in early, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time kickoff Sunday, Bills and Jaguars live in London. Remember that you will not be able to pick up Bills or Jaguars in that 10 a.m. waiver run and start them this week. So you're going to have to get your lineup started without Bills and Jaguars. If they're not already on your team, you won't be able to add them to your team going forward. 4 teams on bye. Make sure you're submitting your lineups this week, getting those bye week players out. I hope the ball bounces your way. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk with you on Tuesday night on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. This show will resume next Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend.